So Jason released a video recently concerning a story that he will soon discover many people have come into contact with and have had thorough time, to form an opinion of. The accusations in there are disappointing because I wish I could get the kind of rise he did out of you. I'm rather envious of the 16-year-old because there were a lot of accusations, and it spoke very strongly of the kinds of conversation we were having about James earlier. First, maybe it's just because on this channel, because I've made a video about straw manning, and now you know that I'm having this hawkeye about it. Now you're just calling it all equivocations. Let's talk about equivocations now. An equivocation can only be committed if the person speaking uses one word in two different ways, not if you can use the word in two different ways. Consider something. We're talking about the word exist within the context of this story, and we can talk about the historical truth or falsehood of the story in a bit. The word exist is being suspect, or it's suspect to equivocation. It may or may not be the case. The comments I was reading, however, made me believe that people don't get this. Again, it's not if you can equivocate a word, it's if the speaker is using a word in more than one way. Okay? In the case that we can say that heat and cold exist as an epistemological construct, so too can we say that dark and light exist as an epistemological construct. Indeed, that's what they have to talk about. You couldn't talk about it if it didn't exist, at least in epistemology. Right? The difficulty, though, is this. People are so apt to jump on that they're not interested in actually trying to decode what the message is trying to say. And I've certainly been the victim, as we all have, of this. Poorly written or not, the consideration, I believe, is thus. When we are considering light versus dark, the only thing that can actually be measured is the presence of a light wave. We can't measure negative space or absence of light waves. It's actually the same critique that you people give me when I talk about the non-physical. How do we talk about the non-physical if you just talk about it in terms of not something that we can measure? Also, the same is true with heat and cold. The only thing that we're measuring is the movement of particles. We can't measure the negative. We can never measure the negative. In these situations, both are empirical. And as the story says, it's a matter of physics. It's a matter of measurement. The question is, can we consider ethics in the same way? I've made videos on ethics, and so I direct you to those if you want my position on the matter. But to boil it down very simply for the sake of this argument, if you believe ignorance is on the other side of morality, on the negative side of morality, then we find ourselves in a very similar situation. One that we can't apply a tape measure to, but we can apply a scale. And in that, there is something to be said about the story. Now the interesting part is the historic truth. What's the word? The historical reliability of the story. Apparently that it was young Einstein questioning a professor. Now it might be that we can produce evidence to say that this is historically inaccurate. However, it is false to assume that evidence of historic inaccuracy is also evidence for deceit. And when people accuse the author of the story for name dropping just for the sake of authority, you're making an accusation without evidence. And the great irony is that many of you said, look, Jason, if you want to be taken seriously, all I have to say to that is, if you want to be taken seriously, you will not make accusations without evidence. You can't have your cake and eat it too.